Welcome to CFO Chronicles, the secrets behind success. The go-to podcast for fractional CFOs and accounting firm owners who want to attract more high-paying clients and increase their revenue. Hosted by James Donovan from 92 Media. This podcast dives into marketing strategies specifically designed for lead generation and client acquisition. In each episode, you'll hear from industry leaders sharing their success stories and expert tactics to help you sign more lucrative clients and grow your business. Tune in and discover actionable insights to transform your marketing efforts and boost your bottom line.
Greatly appreciate that, man. Thanks. Thanks for the invite. I'm excited about this.
Cool. Well, let's jump into things, William. I met you about 2.5 years ago now, maybe closer to 3. I've had the chance to work with you in a group setting and one-on-one. For those who don't know you, do you mind just sharing a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you got started?
Absolutely. So I'm an executive coach. I work with leaders, with business owners, with entrepreneurs, with agency owners around 3 main things: mindset, leadership, and productivity. So often what I have discovered, I've been coaching and working with leaders now for almost 30 years. And when I come to whether it's a relationship in a group setting or a one-on-one, I bring all of my own experience leading teams now for decades, as well as all those conversations coaching leaders. And what I've discovered is that mindset is 90% of someone's success or their lack of it. So what I get to do is I get to help entrepreneurs and business owners and leaders to discover the things that are holding them back. So often they're getting in their own way. And I help them discover those things so we can remove those things and help them move into that place where they're realizing more and more of their potential and their capacity.
That's amazing. And I've seen that firsthand as well. So I can attest to what you're talking about. We work with a lot of professionals in the accounting space. And what I've noticed on my side is a lot of people in this space, they're generally introverted. Not everyone, but a lot are. So one of their biggest struggles that I've noticed is getting in front of potential prospects to sell their services and speak about them being the expert in that space. Without diving too deep into it, what would you recommend for someone who feels like, yeah, that's me. I'm a little nervous to get in front of people. I'm great at what I do behind the scenes, but yeah, speaking to people and selling my thing, that's not what I'm the best at.
I can say that I relate.
Okay.
If you look at my Myers-Briggs profile, I'm about as far to the introverted side as you can go. Any farther, and I think I fall off the chart. That makes what I do very interesting because so much of my time is in front of people. Public speaking with people in groups, speaking with people one-on-one, virtually, in person. There's a common misperception around introversion, and Susan Cain has written extensively on this. If you haven't read any of her work on introversion, it's so powerful. Introverts don't hate people. That's a common misperception, right? Introverts don't hate people. They just don't draw energy from crowds. They just don't draw energy from their interactions with large groups. When I go into a social setting, you're most often going to find me on the periphery, having a conversation with one person, maybe 2, but most often 1, and diving deep and learning as much as I can about that other person. I love learning, and curiosity is one of the tools that I think introverts are fantastic at. Let's bring this into the selling conversation, right? As a business owner, your business has to have sales to survive. Otherwise, it's a hobby, not a business. Okay. And if you're going to sell, you have to have conversations. What I find is curiosity is the way to do that. I ask a whole lot of questions because the right questions will lead you to the right answers. The wrong questions won't. Learning how to ask questions is one of the things that anybody can learn, but especially introverts. This can be a superpower. Just remember, you can't serve them with whatever it is that you do until you sell them. And curiosity is a tool that can help you get there.
Very interesting. Yeah, it questions, they really open up the whole conversation. And then at that point, it really is just two humans having a conversation. And if you can help bridge
Exactly.
the gap, then you've done your job.
That's exactly it. When I'm having a conversation with somebody, I want to focus on them. I want to learn more about what they're doing. I want to learn more about what makes them tick, right? What fires them up? What is it that is part of their wiring that creates their why? If you will do that as a business owner with the prospects that you're talking to, if you will dive into them, you will discover that everybody's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Yeah,
People love to talk about themselves. They love to talk about what makes them tick. They love to talk about their why. You just have to ask the right questions to get them there. This isn't manipulative. I'm genuinely curious. I want to learn more about other people, and questions are the way that I get there.
that's awesome. How'd you get into this space?
I started. It's interesting. I didn't intend to, for sure.
Okay.
I went to college as a pre-pharmacy major, and I had worked in a pharmacy in high school and thought this is a great way to serve people and give my life to this. So I went to college and got into my second year and hit organic chemistry, which is designed as the washout point. That's when they really try to wash out the ones who don't need to be in the field. And it worked because it washed me right out. I hated organic chemistry. It was not something that I enjoyed or was really any good at. And so it did exactly what it was designed to do. Well, now what? This is what I had planned to do. And so I started floundering a little bit. I worked as an office manager. I worked in sales, and I began to find success there, began to climb from, sales in a small setting, sales in a larger setting, then moving into corporate accounts and into the corporate side of things. And as I began to find more and more success in this, what I discovered was a passion around leadership. When I was 15 years old, I had a high school teacher who invited me to attend my first leadership conference. He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And I went and I was hooked. This idea of what leadership can accomplish, the impact a leader can have on so many other people, it was incredibly compelling. So that was a seed that was planted then. And as I began to advance in my career and began to work with leaders in so many different areas and help them grow, help them get better, I discovered what it is that I'm wired to do, which is to come alongside people, to ask them the right questions that maybe nobody else in their world's going to ask them, and to help them see what they can't see, because you can't see the whole picture when you're in the frame.
That's awesome. How did you land on working with agency owners? Because I would imagine, for the most part, every business owner is essentially wired the same. Is
Mhm.
there, do you just enjoy working with the agencies more, or agency owners more so than other audiences, or what's the story behind that?
It goes back a ways. My grandfather started his own business back in the 50s. It was a kids' clothing store in Mobile, Alabama. And he built that up. He and my grandmother built that up and sold it in the 80s and did exactly what every entrepreneur dreams of, sold it, and that provided for them for the rest of their lives. My dad started his own business in the 70s, and he started a traditional advertising agency. And so I've been around advertising and marketing my whole life. I grew up at my dad's office, like listening, talking, hearing him talk about clients and how he did what he did. Now, obviously, that's a world of difference from digital marketing, right? I mean, you're talking radio, TV, newspapers, like the old school advertising, but the principles are the same. And so I've always had a heart for entrepreneurs because that's what I grew up in. That's what I saw, both with my grandfather and with my dad. Starting my own business as a third generation entrepreneur, it was very different from either of theirs. I didn't follow in either of their footsteps in that. But I have a real heart for entrepreneurs. I want to see them succeed. And so often they get in their own way, and I remember stories that both of them told around this, how, oh man, I wish I had seen, I wish, man, if only somebody had like helped me to see that. That's what I get to do now. I get to help entrepreneurs see those things, and they can benefit because I'm helping so many different people in so many different spaces to do that. The agency space was not one I intentionally targeted. That was an invitation to come in and begin to work with entrepreneurs in a field that I didn't have a lot of experience in. But now, years later, I tie that thread all the way back and say, oh wow, it's really just the new iteration of what I grew up with as a kid watching my dad do.
That's awesome. What would you say to individuals or business owners who have this stereotype or the thought that going out and hiring a coach, you're missing a piece or you're not strong enough, so you need a coach, and it's almost a sign of weakness? Because I think I struggle with that for a long time, where if I said I was going to hire a coach, you're almost being mocked that, well, why do you
Yeah.
need a coach? They're like, are you weak in a certain area? Are you mentally unstable? Is there something that's happening? And I couldn't think more of the opposite of that now. And hiring a coach has been the greatest ROI I've ever received on any investment I've made. So what would you say to that, as that is your profession? Because I'm sure you get that as a main objection, or just you hear that in a lot of conversations.
Sure. There is that mindset that people say, I got to do this myself. I don't need help from the outside. I get that. I absolutely get that because I'm an entrepreneur too. And there is a drive and a desire to want to do this yourself. But like you said, there's no greater ROI because coaching is a shortcut. It's a shortcut to help me avoid some of the ditches that I'm going to drive into if I don't have somebody who's helping to guide me. A coach is a guide. A coach is someone who's going to ask you those questions that maybe nobody else in your world is going to ask you. That's going to help you avoid some of the ditches that you were going to drive into without that. That's what's helped me. I've had coaches for years and years because they help me in different parts of my life. Every year, I'm evaluating my business landscape and saying, okay, where do I want to grow this year intentionally? And I'm going to bring in a coach who's going to help me to grow in that area, right? I want to focus very purposefully, very intentionally. I want to grow in this. I want to grow in this. And so that's why I'll hire a coach for a purpose. Often those coaches will turn into something else over time because where I'll initially engage them for this specific idea or this specific area, and they will become over time more of a thinking partner, somebody who's going to give me an opportunity to bounce ideas off somebody who has a knowledge base that can handle that. You know, most of us, when we start a business, we need somebody to bounce ideas off of. We need a space where we can say, hey, what about this? I'm thinking about this. Is this crazy? We need somebody to have those conversations with. Our spouse may or may not get it. They may or may not understand what we're dealing with. And so if you need a place to bounce those ideas, that is the value of a coach. It's to help you see what you can't see, to ask you questions to help you grow in your insight and understanding, and to give you a place where you can bounce ideas, a thinking partner who's going to help you to grow purposefully and intentionally toward the business leader and to grow the business that you want to have.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Feeling like your growth has hit a plateau, even though you're putting in the work? Maybe you're attracting clients, but not the high-end ones who see your true value as an advisor. Or you're stuck in compliance mode with all the big wins happening just a few months of the year. I get it. It's frustrating. And it's not how you envisioned your business evolving. That's why I'm offering a strategy call designed specifically for business owners ready to break through these barriers. This isn't just about leads. It's about creating a strategy that aligns with your marketing, personal brand, and sales approach to attract clients who pay what you're worth. Imagine starting the new year with a clear plan, a stronger personal brand, and more high-ticket clients. If you're serious about taking things to the next level and want a true growth partner, now's the time. Visit accountingleadsnow.com or click the link in the show notes to book your strategy call. Don't let another month pass by without a roadmap to achieve the results you're after. I'm here to help you make the shift.
That's awesome. I'll speak on behalf of those who don't already have a coach hired. It is a really hard thing to see prior to making the investment, but if it's something I wish I would have done from day one in getting started, or even prior to, because it is crazy. Like you mentioned, you can't see the whole picture if you're in the frame. So someone else, different set of eyes, all of their knowledge to share that with you. makes a huge difference. What if you could pinpoint a couple milestones in your entrepreneurial journey, what stands out to you for like, wow, that was a moment where things really changed for the better?
What a great question. I think one of those would be hiring my first team member. Like most, I waited too long. And I think this is something that really feeds into the advice and counsel that I give now. Because I waited way longer than I should have. I could have hired somebody sooner. I didn't because I was like, oh, it's just gonna be an expense. I can do it. I can do it. And what I ended up doing was delaying growth by doing that. Because what hiring a team member did was help me, my first team member, it was to help me say, okay, I don't have to do everything myself. I've had a sticky note on my monitor for years, and I see it every day. And it really brings focus and a frame that I need every day. And it says this: is this the absolute best use of my time right now? And way too often I was finding the answer to be, well, no, it's not. Somebody else could do this. And in hiring that first team member, I then had somebody that I could say, hey, I need some help around these things. And we would meet weekly and talk through some of those things. And I would be able to pass on. Now, years later, I can look back at that and say, wow, why did I not do that earlier? That was a game changer for me. Another game changer for me was getting greater exposure by getting onto the net and into the web in some different ways. I do a lot on LinkedIn. I do LinkedIn live events. And that has increased the exposure that I have to business owners and to leaders because I'm able once a month to hop on there and share some things that I hope is going to help them in their journey. And they can log on, they can access that for free. And it helps me to add value to them so that they can then add value to other people. I love that, but I should have been doing that long before I started doing it, right? Working with marketing agency owners, you would think I would be better at, marketing. And yet it's difficult to see the whole picture when you're in the frame.
Yeah.
And that's true for me. And so I had a coach who said, hey, why aren't you doing this? And when she said that, I was like, gosh, I don't know, because I haven't gotten to it yet. And that was a catapult. The last one I'll mention is the podcast that I host. I started this podcast almost 2 years ago, and I started it with one purpose in mind. But what I discovered over time is this has become one of the best tools to connect with people and to network with people that I have ever seen. Hands down, the absolute best tool in my business is the podcast that I host because I can add value to people who listen all over the world. I can help them in their journey wherever they are, even if they can't afford a coach yet. I can help them to begin thinking different ways about leading and running a business. But it also enables me to connect with people and have them on the show, like you, that I can pick their brain a little bit and I can ask questions. And I can say, James, tell me about your journey. And I can be curious. It's the conversations that I would love to have with people over coffee. And with the podcast gives me a tool to do that and then to share those conversations in a way that benefits other people.
That's awesome. So genuine. William, I know the background behind you is not virtual. You love to read.
Yeah.
What
I
are
do.
you reading now? Or two-part question, what is one book you would absolutely recommend to every business owner that they should read?
Ooh, that's such a great question. I asked that on the show, and it's so hard for me because there are so many. Let's start with what I'm reading now.
Okay.
I just finished a book that is going to become one that I recommend to everybody. If I had unlimited resources, I would buy a copy of this book for every business owner I know and say, I want you to read this next. Whatever you're reading now, just finish it and get to
Take
this.
a note. I know it's gonna be good.
It's called Winning Begins at Home. So often I find business owners who are working so hard, putting in so many hours, that they are neglecting the relationships that matter most. And what Randy Gravitt does in this book, and the book just came out, I had the opportunity to read a pre-release copy and interview him for the podcast. And what Randy writes about in this book is so powerful and so needed in the entrepreneurial space. I have watched people who struggle so much with this, and I think Randy's insights are so incredibly helpful. It certainly challenged me, even with the commitment that I have to this. Man, in a fresh way, it just made me drive down a new marker and say, man, I got to make sure I'm getting this right. And that's going to become part of another question that I add to my weekly review every week to say, hey, how am I doing on this? So that's a book I just finished. So highly recommend this book. Really, really good. Another one that I'm working through right now is called High Road Leadership. It's John Maxwell's newest book. And the gist of it is this, not every leader takes the high road. And I think we can think about leaders in our world, whether it's government, politics, whether it's industry, in any space, we can think of leaders who are not taking the high road and who are leading other people to not take the high road. And what John writes about in the book is how high road leadership needs to be our aspiration and our goal. And he's incredibly practical in ways that we can do that on a daily basis. That's the kind of book that fires me up, because I think leaders have the opportunity to impact the world like nobody else, for good or for bad. And we get to choose.
That's so
So
interesting.
both of those books, those are what I'm reading right now. As far as books that have made a huge difference in my journey, man, I'll tell you one that I talk about a lot from the productivity side is a book called Getting Things Done by David Allen. That book I read almost 20 years ago, and it completely changed the way I operate in my day-to-day workflows. Uh, Very few books have had an impact that still 20 years later, I'm still daily operating according to what I read. That's a book I reread regularly because it's so, so important. I think that it's really easy to be busy, but not be busy doing the right things. And what Getting Things Done, what that system does is it helps me to make sure that I'm focusing on the right things that are in alignment with not just what's most urgent, but what is aligned with my long-term goals. I'm playing the long game. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, you're playing the long game too. And you need to make sure that your day-to-day is in direct alignment with your long-term goals. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself doing the wrong things.
Interesting. I just posted an article before we jumped on here about losing my train of thought now about the long game and like getting started, 4.5, almost 5 years ago, and the aspiration that I don't want this to be a 5-year thing or a 6-year thing. So, talking, we've been doing this for 30 years in this space. Like 5 years is just, a fraction of that. So it's building and setting things up to do it longer term. And, what's the best investment of my time right now to keep moving that ball down the field?
Yes. Yes. Those are great questions, James.
Awesome. William, is there anything you want to leave everyone with before we sign off?
I think the one thing I would love for people to understand is that you have the ability to choose what type of leader you're going to be. You have the ability to choose the impact that you're going to make. And leaders make a greater impact that have ripples that go farther than other people. And you can use that for good. And that's what I'm going to challenge you to do. In my last book, Catalytic Leadership, I talked about 12 things that make a leader catalytic. In other words, a leader who makes a difference. And no matter how you're wired, whether you're a strong introvert like me or whether you're a strong extrovert, doesn't matter. You can choose to be catalytic. You can choose to make a difference. That is a daily choice. And I'm going to challenge you to make it.
I love that. How can everyone get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just look for William C, middle initial C, Attaway, or go to my website, catalyticleadership.net, to find out more about everything that I'm doing.
Awesome. And again, as someone who has worked with you in a group setting and one-on-one, I can't recommend you enough. So I hope everyone who's listening does go check out your site, connects with you on LinkedIn, because you got a ton of value and knowledge to share with everyone. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of this today, William. Really appreciate it.
And thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for the kind words. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to CFO Chronicles, the secrets behind success. We hope today's episode provided valuable strategies to help you attract more high-paying clients. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share with fellow professionals. Connect with us on LinkedIn and leave a review or comment to join the conversation. Your feedback helps us bring you the best insights in finance and marketing. Until next time, keep striving for success and unlocking your business's potential.